This is Monty Martin. This is Kelly McLaughlin.
We are the
right?
Dungeon Dudes.
They're the Dungeon Dudes.
And
this is Deborah Ann Wall.
Hi.
How did you get into our studio?
I got on a plane and I flew here and I said, hey, what's the coolest place to hang out?
And everybody in town told you this?
They told me right here.
That's crazy.
They had breadcrumbs and I followed it all the way. There were puzzles and little riddles that I had to solve. There was a troll.
I mean...
And he let me in.
That's crazy. I didn't know that was like something they were doing in Toronto to lead people to our studio.
It's a tourism board thing. Yeah. They're very excited about it.
They didn't even tell us. Anyway, we're here with Deb, and we're gonna be talking about some cool stuff that we've been doing since you've magically appeared in our studio. Yeah.
If you haven't already seen the trailer for Tales from Woodcreek, go check that out now. It's right up over here.
We did the card thing. I've never been in a video where someone did the that was
Do you want to do it? Do you want to point?
Well, that was I watch YouTube, but I don't make YouTube, so that was very peek behind the curtain for me.
Yeah.
I do. It's there. You can watch our trailer there.
Yeah.
Crazy. So.
It's magic.
What?
Sorry. I'm the nerdiest person they know, so.
I mean. You're one of them.
I'm one of them.
That's actually crazy, though, because everybody we know is a huge nerd.
Yeah.
And you have been putting
something
together...
really nerdy, but really cool.
Yeah. So what is this nerdy cool thing that we have been doing?
Yeah. So my writing partner, my co-collaborator, my co-conspirator, and I, Ed Gastonelli, we have created a show called Tales from Woodcreek. It will be premiering on the Dungeon Dudes channel, October 31st. We had the most extraordinary time making it. It is a wild show. I don't know all of the content. In fact, you guys are probably more familiar with D&D content online, but I have not seen anything like this before. I think it is really kind of a leap into a fusion of genres and bringing some D&D into the world, a little bit of escape room, a little bit of haunted house. So yeah, what was your experience doing this wild mix fusion of nerddom?
You know, I didn't know what to expect. When you guys pitched the idea, I remember going home being like, we said yes, but what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand. And it wasn't until we got to set that we actually got to see how this all works. And so you probably aren't going to get what's going on until you actually watch the show. But it was just a crazy ride. I feel like the essence of the show, when I think of it, is that the players had no idea what was going on, and we were solving this mystery, and like every step of the way you would surprise us with very elaborate set design and props.
Yes.
I think, Monty, you described it as this is like a D&D game if your game master was obsessed with puzzles and had a budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is basically, I mean, it's a small budget, but that's what this is, yeah.
I mean, more than our normal actual play has.
And I've definitely said, like, I've even said to my own family, it's like, this is something that I think you can actually watch.
I hope so, yeah.
Right? Because I think that what's really unique about just the way that it's been shot, because we shot it in a very reality TV style format, but with a blend of a lot of the techniques that are also used in recording actual play, and that there's kind of been this very action forward, getting up on your feet sort of highly visual element to it. I think it's like one of those things that people who will not get the D&D element at all will actually still be able to really enjoy. Because even if you don't understand the rules and mechanics of D&D, you're going to be able to follow along the puzzles, right? And try to solve those as well, and follow along with our experience of doing those elements of them, because that's just the kind of the immersive format that it followed. And so I've been saying to my family, it's like, yes, I know you don't normally watch a 4-hour actual play and you're not going to follow along with any of the regular stuff, but this is actually something that you'll be able to like digest.
That's often my mission statement. It's like, how do I make something that, you know, the hardcore purists who love this game can get into, but also the new people who are just curious, like, what is D&D? What is this thing? So we can kind of start to bring in more people.
This episode is sponsored by Creatures Volume 3, Draconis, a peaceful dragon compendium, now in its final 48 hours on Kickstarter.
Draconis reimagines dragons not as villains to defeat, but as mentors, mysteries, and companions with their own hopes, flaws, and destinies.
It's part of the Creatures series, books designed around non-violent storytelling for 5th edition. Instead of asking, how do we kill the dragon? The question becomes, what do they want? What do they remember? And what happens if the player characters listen?
You'll find over 70 original dragons, each one a self-contained story, complete with layers, legends, and role-playing hooks that invite empathy, diplomacy, and discovery. It's perfect for DMs who love deep world-building and players who crave meaningful encounters that don't always have to end in combat.
So if you're a storyteller who wants to explore the gentler and more emotional side of fantasy storytelling, or a player who's tired of every problem ending with a sword, this is for you.
It's in its final 48 hours right now, so don't wait. Head to the Kickstarter and back Creatures Volume 3, Draconis, a peaceful dragon compendium, before the campaign ends.
The links are down below. Check it out and bring a little more peace and a lot more dragons to your gaming table.
So you two, being extraordinary dungeon masters in your own right, well, the fact that you guys came on as players and went with it and trusted me and really I think it is that within this business, this community, that we each lend credence and sort of lift each other up by doing these things. So if I can come and play in your game and you guys can come and play in mine, and then it's a way to sort of say hey, we're all doing this in different ways, but we can have fun together.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I felt very out of my element.
I'm sure.
Because I wasn't sure what to expect.
You're a forever
from it all.
DM too.
Yeah. And I think that as someone who also really enjoys escape rooms, I think that it definitely was all right, I'm gonna enter this side of my brain for it. So that was really fun to tickle that part of the brain as well through it. I'm never gonna stop thinking about the puzzle from episode 3-4. We'll see how it gets edited out, but that still just remains my favorite one.
Oh, good.
Just because it was such a I don't know, just the say it later, but the moment that it was revealed and everything, I was just so delighted. It was there it was in plain sight the whole time.
Genuinely, that's all I ever want as a DM, is to delight people at the table. And I think this was just okay, what are the biggest, grandest ways that we think we can delight and surprise everyone? And how can we take this game and play it on our feet, or play it outside, or play it underground, or, whatever we could come up with. How can we transfer this and sort of start to stretch what D&D is and what it means?
Yeah. I do think that, for me, playing with you as the game master was probably one of the greatest joys. I mean, you are that sort of sense of, delight. And I don't think I've ever played with somebody as friendly or excited. And I mean, not to say that Monty isn't friendly and excited. I don't know. I don't want to give any spoilers, but there was a moment where I was genuinely afraid of the things that were going on. And what I wasn't prepared for some reason, I thought something horrible was going to jump out and scare me. And instead it was your smiling face that I ran into. And it actually, I don't know, it's locked in my head as I almost burst out laughing because I had all this fear because there was some jump scares. Yeah. And then when I looked and you were just hi. And I was oh, we're fine. We're okay. Playing a game.
But that's part of it, right? Fear is only fun when you're safe, right? Yeah. A roller coaster is fun because people have gone on it before you, they test it, you're going to be fine. Scary movies are fun because you're okay. So that's what I really strive for in D&D, that if I'm going to be the kind of DM who says, hey, go out of your comfort zone, go on this ride with me where you have no idea what I'm going to ask of you, I better be someone that you can trust and that I am never going to leave you in the lurch.
We say this many times in our advice to players and DMs, is that the foundation of trust between the table is kind of the essential glue. Yeah. And especially with an adventure like this, you have to trust that all right, I'm going to go down into this scary looking cellar and I hope I'm not going to not come out again.
Yeah, I feel like you did build that trust though so quickly that we were along for the ride, and what a ride it was. And I mean, at every episode, I feel like anytime I like tried to suspect something or assume what was going to happen, it was so far
I
off.
feel like we got a little bit wise towards the
Yeah,
end.
a little bit.
I feel like we started to be like, okay, this is Deb being Deb. And you start to get into, because I do think that as you play with a DM more, you do start to figure out what their calling card is,
Sure.
what their tells are, and you start to go, okay, this is how they're thinking. This is what we're going for. It's kind of like a weird way of like you can metagame your DM.
Well, a little bit, but I think that's a little bit of why I really like this, like including this escape room up on your feet stuff.
Yeah.
Because once you're in a situation where you're actually having to engage with something physically, I think some of that metagame stuff slips away. Because
Yeah.
there's kind of not room for it. You're like, I just have to figure out what I'm doing right now. you
And,
know?
and I will say, like, there's probably going to be a handful of people who I expect from our channel, like, a hardcore D&D game, but like this
is not a hardcore D&D
this
game.
takes
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
min-maxing mechanics and like optimization and just tosses it out the window instantly. I forgot to use most of my abilities. Now, okay, for those of you who do watch our show, I always forget to use my abilities, but like it wasn't about the abilities. They came up when they came up, and that was part of the character, but it was mostly about our genuine engagement
Yes.
with the narrative.
Yes.
And I would say, again, that is specific for me, my style, bringing it to this. I want to feel that meld of character and player being present. And that might be the actor in me, because I think sometimes we think of role play and taking on characters as erasing self, but I don't agree with that. As an actor, you have to bring yourself to the role. You cannot completely disguise yourself. That's the heart, that's the authenticity. And so sometimes I think some of this idea of like so much of my work in this is how do I take us all past the metagame so that it isn't about playing a game, it's about having an experience as a person, and this game sort of floats on top to give us a structure, or maybe underneath to give us a foundation.
Or through,
Ooh,
or within,
or it
or
rivers
permeates,
inside.
binds us together.
And the darkness
Yes,
binds us.
literally.
Yeah. The other thing that like was super mind blowing was just you and Ed and the amount of play testing that,
Oh, boy.
that you did. I do want to give a shout out to the Ed Donnelly has been one of our patrons for a while, and several of our patrons got to participate in the play testing of this. So a big thank you to
Baron,
the whole
Andrew, and Greg, thank you guys so much. Not only did they play test a ton of puzzles and like do stuff with us, they then stuck around and were like the most extraordinary stagehands. So we love them. They were amazing.
Yeah, and how was, I'm curious, how was that to be able to like battle test all of your puzzles and encounters?
Sometimes we were battle testing them before we had all the like official elements. So it was a little bit like, okay, imagine that it's more like this, But luckily that's like something that D&D players do really well, is imagine stuff.
Yeah.
So they were right up in game for it. And, we would sort of set things up the best way that we could. And because we couldn't play through the whole story, it was really helpful for me because I had to almost plot-wise be like, okay, here's what you've learned so far. Here's what you've encountered. And I didn't know exactly how you guys were going to go through it, but I knew the checkpoints, right? Like in any D&D game that you create, you're like, here's where they're going to learn this piece of information, and I know that they're going to get to that sometime in the next couple of in this location, right? So I had to kind of be like, okay, here's sort of what they will know, what information they'll have, and this is what I'm going to give them. See if you can figure it out.
Yeah. And I mean, that I think is one of the interesting challenges about doing a piece of media around D&D, because if your players don't solve the puzzle in your game night, you can always just be like, all right, we'll pack up, pause it, come back next week, and we'll do to that. Whereas we don't have that luxury,
No.
right? Like, we are not coming back to the Black Creek Pioneer Village again. We are at our booking time. Everyone's got flights to catch.
Yeah.
So you have to play to the time that you have.
You do, and that was a major challenge every single night. And I'm also a big believer in like you have to give it some time to breathe, right? I want to give you guys time to role play. I want to give you time to actually genuinely find things out. But I do find that there are ways that you can help, which is you should never have one clue for anything. There should be multiple clues, and you should be able to kind of hide them anywhere you want. So if they don't go in that room where you have a really great clue, you just go, great, it's not there anymore, it's over here. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that like you're talking about this in a physical sense, where it's the exact same things that we talk about in like dungeon design, mystery design in our games. So you're just taking that and making it a physical event.
Yeah.
I think that the other mind-blowing thing for me was the amount of incredible guests that we had, both in the prequel and in the actual show.
That's right.
So I'm not sure when we're releasing this, but if the prequel isn't out yet, it was crazy how much you surprised us with that, and a lot of amazing guests. And then the guests for the actual show, we had. I mean, yeah, we had some awesome people that I have known about for a while, and I've seen them in many things, and it was just so cool to watch them all experience D&D.
For the first time.
Yeah.
You know, that true newbie, like, whoa, wait, I can do anything kind of thing is so exciting. And I think, you know, unfortunately, for their first time to be this like immersive escape room in a village situation, hopefully they'll have...
They're troopers.
They're troopers.
Yeah.
I mean, we were asking a lot, again, of faith of them, you know, and again, I think it's a testament to this community and to the relationships that we've all built. The people were like, okay, I will show up and I will do this thing I know nothing about. For our first 2 episodes, we have Iman Vellani, we then have Jess Hennick, and then Sean Majumber, and finally Will Wheaton.
Yeah, and for most of them, it was their first time playing D&D, and some of the choices they made were like, it's great to watch a new player make choices.
I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's so much more free from a person who knows all the rules. And I try to remind myself of that, and it's so refreshing to witness it, because you're like, I could make ridiculous decisions too.
Well, and some of it for me is like, I often say to new players, I'm like, don't worry about your sheet, right? Play from your heart and your mind and say what you want to do, and then we'll use your sheet and your mechanics to figure out how to do it. And sometimes the immersive stuff is fun because I'm like, you can't bring your sheet. We're going over there. And so it's same, you have to start playing from some other gut instinct that, again, like, it's not that one is better or worse than the other. It's just an interesting new facet to this game. And so I feel like in this one, we were really experimenting with, how do you kind of take the game and just let your instincts guide you? Cool.
I definitely found it challenging for myself at first to be like, I can do that, because I rarely get the opportunity to play. And as a power gaming metagamer, and an unabashed one at that, I also like to break things, and so like the hardest thing for me with so many times is like, what if I just smashed this?
I remember we literally, because we were at a heritage site and there were like literally things, there were plenty of things that they could destroy, but lots of things they couldn't. So Monty had lots of questions about, how will I know? And Ed and I were like, don't worry, it will be very clear what is a priceless historic item and what is something you are able to just tear apart with your bare knuckles.
Yeah, because I think I said, like, I'm the type of person that in an escape room, like, I will pull up the floorboards and I will do things. I've been kicked out of escape rooms because I thought I was supposed to be able to do that.
That's incredible.
And so
you didn't even come close. You were so good, I feel.
Yeah.
You destroyed things exactly the way you were supposed to destroy things.
I did flip over a couple of matches. But yeah, because it is fun to be a provocateur, like to kind of provoke things and see what you can poke and everything like that, especially when you can do it physically.
Yes, I think
right?
for sure.
And like actually get your hands on something and fiddle around with something and see, like, can I pull this apart? Will this, like, what can I brute force and what can't you? Yeah.
Well, there's something interesting too about when you play D&D and we play in our imaginations. Obviously, imagination is enough, right? We can do a whole thing just with our imagination. It'll be so vivid and real and exciting. But I do think sometimes, because of the culture that we live in, and like, we don't necessarily have a lot of the experiences that happen in these D&D settings, and so we might be playing out of trope or out of something like that. So the idea was like, what if I make you actually go tactilely look for something? then I go, oh, now that I've had that experience, when I sit down at the table, I have a much more specific idea of what it feels like to be in that scenario. So even if we just do it once, do we then come back to the table and have a much more lived in, feel for some of these more adventure-y things that we don't get to do on a regular basis?
Something that I really liked about the show was the way that, so like being a D&D player, when we were like engaging with elements in the room, I'm not great at puzzles, and that was actually something that I was really worried about going into this. I'm like, man, I struggle with like these types of puzzles, but you would just pop in with your little dice tray and be like, would you like to make an investigation check? And then you would give us a hint. Yeah. So in that way, even when engaging fully with actual puzzles, I didn't feel like I was at a loss. Like, yes, my character notoriously was like, it's this, and then it wasn't that at all. But like that became a funny thing.
Yeah, what a great trait then. Yeah.
But then every once in a while, I'd roll and I'd get a hint, and I'd be like, okay, now we have more information and we can build off of that. And I thought that was really a clever way, because sometimes at the table it works the opposite, where like you're trying to play a skill that you don't necessarily have, and no matter how much information you get, it sometimes is hard. But with this, because we were actually engaging with an element, having additional information allowed us to engage in a new way, and so it actually linked together really well.
My thing with puzzles, I think a lot of people are afraid of them in games. I've said this, in other interviews, because they're afraid it'll make them look stupid. And my goal with puzzles is actually always the opposite. I want you to feel so smart. So I want to give you a puzzle so that everyone gets to have that, I figured it out moment. So it isn't about, haha, I'm a clever girl, I stumped you. It's about, look at this cool thing. Okay, check it out. What are your ideas? Oh my God, that was brilliant. That's not the answer, but that's so good. Here, roll this dice. Okay, you were on the right track when you were looking at that. So it's this idea of like, how do you encourage people to like use their brains and not be afraid, and then be rewarded for that?
Well, that's just it, because like as a dungeon master, all your secrets are meant to be revealed. There's no point in having a secret if it doesn't get revealed. All the enemies, all the bad guys will be defeated.
Yep.
Right? All the puzzles will be solved. All the mysteries will be uncovered. All the chests will be looted.
Yes.
And so there is. It's important to find the delight in that, and also find the skill at being able to move things along, and the roll to get a clue, I think, is like a really classic example. And I do think it is one of those funny things about how you can put a puzzle intended for grade schoolers in front of your average group of adult D&D players and watch them squirm over it, which is wonderful. That always works, and people still feel smart even though they engaged with it that way. And definitely, I think that the other side of that I have slightly the opposite problem to Kelly, is that, especially in this case, I was playing the big muscly paladin, and as a person, I love engaging with puzzles, and so I definitely, once I realized that I was free to like, okay, I can just be Monty in this, it was like, okay, this is great, because there was a certain point where I was like, should I have just played a wizard with expertise in
but to me, there's something really beautiful in that, because like, isn't there actually something really interesting in the big muscly paladin who's like, wait a minute, I think I know how to solve this, right? The contrast is always interesting, I think. So sometimes when you're playing against your type, but again, you allow yourself to come through, I think you get something kind of nuanced and contrasty, which is fun.
I lost my character so many times in the show.
That's okay. I mean, right to say right now, like, that was encouraged. I definitely, before every single adventure, every single episode, came forward and was like, I love you all. Thank you for being here. We're going to have a great time. Bring yourselves. Yeah. Right? Like, please, we want, part of the joy of this is that we're going to get to see your reactions to these things. And then in the moments that are character and role play, that's where you are
and we
brilliant
did get those
and can
moments,
do it.
I think the funniest one for me was in the prequel, because I have a voice for my character, but everybody else was doing gangster voices, and I started doing one as well. And I'm like, I've completely lost my character's voice. I'm doing a new voice now, and that's what I'm doing.
And that's okay. Hey, there's some time passes.
Yeah,
your
7 years. My voice shifted. No, it was really a lot of fun, and I did actually. It was refreshing, because Monty and I, again, we mostly play here at this table. We play regular standard D&D. I mean, we have a lot of fun doing that. But I'm a person who, as much as Monty was out of his element, I also am a person who like shows up and I'm like, the moment the cameras roll, I am in character and I won't be out of character. Like we break sometimes, but we slip right back into it.
Sure.
And I've said this before, like the moment there was a jump scare or that like I was like stuck on a box or like putting books together on the floor, like that's just Kelly. That's just Kelly doing that. But it was so fun to engage in that way. Like I got to be Kelly and I got to be Valentine as well. So
some of that too for me is about, again, that like welcoming new people into the hobby, is that it can be intimidating, the idea of like, oh, I have to come up with a character with a voice and mannerisms and I can't break, like that's something that like, if that's something you love and you want to dig into that, you start doing that when you have the confidence. But I think sometimes that can be a little intimidating, and especially when they have heroes who do that so well. And so I think something like this, it's a little bit of like to be able to see you, who they know as this role player who never breaks, be there, and then in go, oh, I didn't know what was happening and I lost my character. It's a little bit of way to be like, oh my God, he's human and maybe I can do it too, and eventually get to the place like him where he can stay in it forever. So, it's a little bit like taking all of us out of our comfort zone so that we can go back to being new players a little bit.
But at the same time, the environment was also so immersive.
Sure.
Right? Like being in these historic buildings with all the lighting, with all the props and everything like that, it also was easy to just get lost in the moment too, right? Like there, especially in those more dimly lit moments and with the lantern.
When I'm just there with a lantern or running through like the darkness. And
especially you as a performer as well, with some of the NPCs that you got to play. It was like so gripping, like the way that you would just transform into these other people just for a brief moment. And I definitely think that there were a few moments that I thought was really, really interesting, where we were still seated around a table, but we were in this space, we were in this environment, we were still doing the D&D thing, but then surrounded by all this other stuff. Those were some of those magical moments for me in it, because it really was this blend, and I felt it really, really strong. Like I'm going back. I think episodes 3 and 4 might be my favorite, because there were so many moments. Because it is also too. That's also for me one of those things where things. We were like,
you knew what you were in for.
We knew what we were in for now, and things were really, really clicking in at that point, but it was just the atmosphere of that building and then later on in the halfway house and things like that just really like made this feel amazing. But then we also sat on the floor. And we sat in the schoolhouse and all of these different environments.
That was another thing too, is like thinking like what are non-traditional ways to like seat you all was really fun. Like so you'll interact with each other differently because you have to be at a desk or you have to be, on the floor or whatever it is. And I think for me, some of that is like when I play D&D at a table in a room like this, or even, at my dining room table, my instinct is always, for immersion's sake, is I want you to feel like the monsters behind you, right? So I want to be like, you look over there and you see in the trees, and over this way you can, hear the pounding of feet as it runs towards you, so that we feel in situ rather than necessarily like above it looking in that sense. And so the great thing about doing Tales from Woodcreek is, in a way, that did so much of the work for me.
Yeah.
Because even if it wasn't literally where we were, it was a aesthetic and vibey correct stand-in for where we were. And a lot of times it was literally where we were.
I mean, I was on edge every time that we had to go into any sort of darkness or a new room with nothing but like a lantern and ourselves. And like, it's funny, like I just generally was a little scared the whole time. But that was the point, is we were characters in a haunted village that was dangerous. So you can watch me be actually scared a whole bunch on camera. It's great.
We took good care of him.
But I also do think that is one of the interesting things about immersion in general, is that, and I think that this is something that for anyone that watches Tales from Woodcreek, wanting things to take away from it that they can bring back to their own games, is that immersion doesn't have to be total immersion to achieve the effect. Right? It's still not like I was actually swinging an actual sword. Or that we were actually seeing actual ghosts, but
Speak for
bringing
yourself.
in, but I think that what you achieved really well, Deb, was you activated multiple senses.
Oh, that's a really interesting way to to describe immersion in general.
And
right?
yeah, and oftentimes with D&D, we're not engaging with anything other. It's a very oral storytelling,
visual oral.
visual oral.
You saying that, I'm realizing that like every building that we were in smelt old.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like we were like it's like they weren't like smelly or anything, but like the smell usually where you're in a person's house, but like we were in a barn at one point.
Yeah.
And it smelled like a barn, an old musty barn, and that adds to the
and sound effect that you can be in one room and hear something, touching things.
Yeah.
We're engaging with like we're seeing, we're touching, we're smelling, we're hearing.
You didn't eat anything. Sometimes I wonder.
We didn't taste. Nobody licked anything.
I wondered if there was going to be something that we were going to have to eat.
We had some plans that maybe if we get a season 2, but I think I mean, in terms of bringing that home, I mean, I've had treasure hunts where I've just hidden like a note in a potted plant in my living room, and you send somebody over to find it, right? Like you don't necessarily need to be in a pioneer village with fancy props and things to do a lot of what we did on the show in your own home.
Yeah, because it activates the imagination, which is always going to be more powerful than anything else. But it is that whole thing of how having like a prop plus a sound effect plus a smell, just all of a sudden it's like the equation that just unlocks the whole thing, that gets your mind really.
Let's just say we talked about immersion as really being presence. That what can you do to bring a player and a character, really bring a player into the present moment? So again, you're not thinking about game statistics or mechanics or what your next move is going to be. You're in the story, in the moment with us all together. And that's art as far as I'm concerned, is when a group of people are in a present moment at the same time, including the audience, right? I mean, if you guys join us in being present in the moment as you're watching, we've created a huge art movement then. As we're talking about immersion and stuff, as you said, we have these incredible other D&D creators who've come to join us this weekend. We just shot the prequel episode, which you may or may not have already seen. We don't know when this is coming out. But I had a whole conversation with Ginny D about immersion. I had a whole conversation about puzzles with Will from D&D Shorts. Taylor from Taylor's Tavern Tales, I needed the S, came and did a bunch of amazing, funny, chaotic bits with us. Todd was here, Todd Kendrick, to come and talk with all of us about this show. We're just so thrilled that we have such amazing friends and amazing co-collaborators.
Tales from Woodcreek will be airing right here on the Dungeon Dudes YouTube channel starting October 31st. There'll be 8 episodes total, dropping every Friday from the 31st onward. I really can't wait. We're gonna have the premiere. We're gonna have all the chats and everything like that. Yeah. So be sure to mark your calendars for that. We're super, super excited about it. And just, I want to give a big thank you to, of course, yourself, Deb, and to Guest Donnelly as well. I just putting all this together and inviting us to be. It was just such a treat.
Well, thanks for trusting us and hosting it on your channel. We really could not be more happy with this partnership. So.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Deb. And
thank you for joining us.
And we can't wait to see all of you in Woodcreek soon.